grow older, there are many challenges that we have to confront, but these years can represent the best in our lives. Coming of Age during Nationwide This Morning on Thursdays explores issues persons 50 and over confront. It also provides expert opinions on how we can improve the quality of our lives as we get older. That's Coming of Age, this and every Thursday during Nationwide This Morning at 6:51 a.m.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Learn about smart betting strategies with AnyBet. Bet wisely, enjoy responsibly, and maximize your success. The temperature by AnyBet is
31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 29 out west in Montego Bay.
News at 5 teasers are brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robian Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Jamaica's fiscal reform is a path to sustainable growth for the wider Caribbean region.
That's the word from Deputy Head of the IMF, former Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke.
Jamaica was only able to achieve the previously unimaginable when stability was restored and became entrenched.
Homeowners in Montego Bay say they're not being properly compensated for losses linked to road projects in St. James.
You can't just take us out of a gated community and they're going to pay our rent for a couple months until we find somewhere. We're not supposed to be taking on this.
But NROC says it has been fair and transparent in its acquisitions of the lands for the bypass.
The Education Minister says several initiatives have been deployed to improve the literacy rate of primary and secondary students island-wide.
In news from the rest of the world, UN report says gang violence has displaced a record 1.3 million Haitians.
Trump claims rare earths deal done with China.
In headline sports, a former Premier League coach has taken over the Manning Cup program at Heidel.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, more than 70% of the student population at Pembroke Hall High cannot read or can only do so at the 3rd grade level. Why? The school's principal, Reverend Claude Ellis, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, what, if anything, has your MP improved in your constituency? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, a recent survey conducted by the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS and the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS has revealed that 80% of HIV service organizations face severe disruptions, threatening decades of progress in the Caribbean. We'll hear from the director of UNAIDS Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, Dr. Richard Amenya.
At 7, attorney Dr. Christopher Malcolm is the new principal of the Norman Manley Law School effective September 1. He'll join us.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio, JM.com, and on the Nationwide app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, it's Wednesday, June 11, 2025.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and former Finance Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Nigel Clarke, has touted the successes of the country's fiscal reform as a path to sustainable growth for the wider region. Dr. Clarke was delivering the keynote address for the 25th William G. Demas Memorial Lecture on Tuesday evening. In noting the current difficulties being faced in global trade, Dr. Clarke is urging the Caribbean to shore up fiscal discipline, similarly to what had been accomplished in Jamaica. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
As trade tensions rise globally, Deputy Managing Director for the IMF, Dr. Nigel Clark, says the Caribbean faces a challenge of declining global growth in a region already characterized by its own development challenges. However, he told the 25th William G. DeMoss Memorial Lecture hosted by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, that this is a challenge that must be surmounted. Dr. Clark, who spent nearly 8 years as Jamaica's finance minister, used the country as an example of how fiscal reforms can positively impact growth potential.
As a prerequisite, countries should strive to pursue policies that restore, maintain, and entrench macroeconomic stability. Jamaica, for example, was burdened with, and I'll just choose one variable, unemployment rates that averaged in the 20% region for all the periods from the early 1970s to the end of the 1980s, and averaged 15% from the 1990s going all the way up to the mid-2000s. And Jamaica was only able to achieve the previously unimaginable result of low single-digit unemployment, and we're talking about unemployment in the region of 4% or lower. Jamaica only achieved this when stability was restored and became entrenched.
The IMF Deputy Managing Director also touted Jamaica's record low prevalence of poverty. He again credited this to the hard-won fiscal stability fostered in the country.
Stability is also a friend to the poor, as Jamaica's experience also highlights. Jamaica achieved the lowest poverty rate in its 61 years of independence in 2023. Again, on the back of entrenched macroeconomic stability in the context of an institutionalized social protection framework supplemented by temporary and targeted counter-cyclical measures at times of distress. Friends, our history and global economic history clearly demonstrate that economic stability is indispensable to national success.
Dr. Clark says the singular challenge faced by the Caribbean has been macroeconomic stability. He's urging nations in the region to entrench stability as a priority. According to Dr. Clark, the best avenue to accomplish this is empowering institutions.
For much of Caribbean's history as independent nations, it has been bedeviled by macroeconomic challenges. The time has come to recognize that stability once attained must never be lost, but instead be used to attack and solve higher order problems. Also, the requirements of stability should act as a constraint on policy. Any proposed policy action that has the prospect of jeopardizing any of the components of stability should not make it through the policy formation gauntlet. Securing economic stability, therefore, into the future requires laws, but laws are insufficient. Stability over the long term is best preserved by developing, empowering, and strengthening institutions.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Several homeowners in Montego Bay are raising concerns that they're not being properly compensated for losses linked to the Long Hill Bypass project in St. James. The residents are from Montego West Village, a gated community in the second city. Two of the impacted residents called into Nationwide News to voice their concerns. Shalois Michael reports.
Work on the Long Hill Bypass started in October 2024. It's a component of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project, which aims to reduce the traffic congestion, enhance business, and boost efficiency in the city. The multi-billion-dollar project, which is about 60% complete, has now reached the vicinity of Montego West Village. But some homeowners of the gated community are voicing concern that the construction is being done too close to their homes. One resident told our news center that the close margin has barred her from doing additional work on her property. We've distorted her voice to protect her identity.
Some of the houses, they will be taken, but some of the properties, they will just be taken apart of them. So, two main things are our concern. When the surveyors came and they put the mark on the property, some of the marks are very close to the houses. We are not able to no longer extend onto our properties because our entire backyard will be taken.
She says the compensation being offered for the inconvenience is not enough.
The money that they will be giving us that money is not feasible. So we would love to be compensated fairly for the portion of the property that they are taking. Another thing, for the horses that they give values for, the values are not fair values to us. So we are not able to purchase another property in West Village for that money that is being offered.
The Montego Bay Perimeter Road project is being implemented by the National Road Operating and Constructing Company, NROC. The residents say they were given a notice some time ago that the lands may be up for acquisition as a result of the project. But they say they got a letter with an offer for their properties about 4 months ago. The residents say they met with NROC to voice their frustrations, but they didn't receive a positive response. Another homeowner who's looking forward to retirement says she feels boxed into a corner to either accept the meager offer and leave or have her property impacted by the project.
For example, you have 3 persons on a site. We build this to expand for retirement purposes. How are we going to move on? You can't just take us out of a gated community and they're going to pay our rent for a couple months until we find somewhere. We're not supposed to be taking on this when you are the one supposed to ensure that we are placed somewhere because you're taking us out of our comfort zone.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Managing Director of NROC, Stephen Edwards, is dismissing claims that the company has not been fair or transparent in its handling of property acquisitions relating to the Long Hill Bypass project. He says where valuation assessments are not done to the satisfaction of the owner, they are encouraged to get it done privately.
The acquisition of lands for the construction of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project is being carried out in accordance with the provisions of the Land Acquisition Act. As part of this process, NROC engages private, independent valuation surveyors to conduct professional assessments of each property that is affected by the project. These valuations are used to guide the preparation of fair and reasonable compensation offers to the respective property owners. In cases where the property owners are not in agreement with the compensation that is offered by NROC, they're then encouraged to obtain independent valuations of their own.
Mr. Edwards says this gives the affected homeowner an opportunity to suggest their proposed compensation.
This approach ensures that the process remains transparent and that affected persons are treated fairly and respectfully. NROC remains committed to maintaining an open and transparent process grounded in fairness and guided by the legal framework established under the Land Acquisition Act.
Stephen Edwards, the Managing Director of NROC.
Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon says the ministry has deployed multiple initiatives aimed at improving the literacy rate of primary and secondary students island-wide. She was reacting to a Gleaner report that 70% of first-form students at Pembroke Hall High School in Kingston are either unable to read or can only do so at a third-grade level.
It's always sad when you see those reports, and it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. We've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them. We're doing more interventions, and come September, for all of those schools, the children will now get breakfast.
Speaking during Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing, the minister says primary schools need to cooperate with the ministry's efforts to improve the country's literacy rate.
And so there are more interventions like that we need to do, but we also have to work with the school leadership, because we do have a board, we have a principal in all of these schools, and it's very important that we showcase the schools where they have a problem at grade 3, and you see by grade 6 it has been addressed. And what that means to me is that it can be done, and with the right leadership and with them taking the tools we have in the ministry, that we can definitely, within another 3 or 4 years, we can eliminate this problem. but it takes the board to be proactive. A board has to be proactive. And remember, all these children at Pembroke Hall High are coming from primary schools. And so the primary schools have to take that ownership too and work with us in the ministry.
Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Minister of Education and Youth.
Meanwhile, the minister says her ministry is also working on improving the detection and treatment of students with learning disorders.
We are training our teachers to be able to pick up issues. And what we say to them is that when you pick up any challenges, you need to encourage the parent to come into the ministry, to come in and get a diagnostic test. And that's why we're building a new facility, which will be open this year, in order to do more diagnostic tests. What we're doing is providing scholarships for individuals who want to train in that area. The Ministry of Education has scholarships. We've also said to UWI, you need to work with us in terms of delivering more people who can do the diagnostic tests, but also we need clinicians who can actually work with the children when it's diagnosed.
Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, the Minister of Education and Youth. You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision, including diabetes, hypertension, and some cancers. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today. The time by IQ Optical is...
It's 16 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is
31 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 29 out west in Montego Bay.
The loan frenzy is on with Infinity Co-op Credit Unions. Fund your possibilities loan promotion with zero to low processing fees, up to 240 months to repay, and competitive interest rates. You can borrow using a secured or unsecured loan to fund your dreams. Dream it, fund it, live it with Infinity, where possibilities are endless. Visit infinitycuja.com or call 876-926-6973 for more details. Conditions apply.
Continuing the news, the opposition People's National Party PNP have staged another protest in a call for what they describe as good governance and institutional integrity. It's their second protest since the appointment of Dennis Chung as Chief Technical Director of the Financial Investigations Division, FID. Scores of orange-clad comrades joined PNP officials for what the party dubs the Rescue Jamaica protest. The just over 2-hour-long protest started sometime after 8 a.m. When our news center arrived on location, a heavy security presence was observed. The protesters bore placards criticizing Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Some of the placards read, "Is this choosing Jamaica, Andrew? Andrew call it, and corrupt government." A small group of green-clad laborites gathered on the opposite side of the street, but neither that, the scorching sun, nor the busy traffic dampened the comrades' joy. They sang party songs and cheered on party president Mark Golding and General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell. Golding told the comrades that Jamaica needs change.
They seem to be obsessed with bad mind. They are wallowing in bad mind. All they can talk about is bad mind. When they are the ones who take the truth and turn it into lie. They're the ones who deceive the people by constant misinformation. How can they say that the Cornwall Regional Hospital is anything but a complete disaster for the people of Jamaica? Over $20 billion of projected expenditure. 7 years of work and it can't finish, and the people of Western Jamaica are suffering without a Type A hospital. When we see the school system and the underperformance of our bright children, and they're doing nothing about improving what is happening, we need a fundamental change in education.
Opposition Leader Mark Golding.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute
Gang violence has displaced a record 1.3 million people across Haiti. That's according to the latest report from the United Nations International Organization for Migration. It warns that there has been a 24% increase in displaced people since December, with gunmen now having chased 11% of Haiti's nearly 12 million inhabitants from their homes. The report released on Wednesday says more than 230,000 people alone have been left homeless in Port-au-Prince, as gunmen continue to lay siege in the two largest regions north of the capital. The assessment says, or rather it's calling for urgent action. The Director General of the Migration Association says the strength of the Haitian people is humbling, but resilience cannot be their only refuge. A UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police is helping Haitian authorities fight gangs.
Talks aimed at cooling tensions between the U.S. and China have ended in a deal, according to U.S. President Donald Trump. He says China had agreed to supply U.S. companies with magnets and rare earth metals, while the U.S. would walk back its threats to revoke visas of Chinese students. On his media platform, Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval from President Xi and me." It followed 2 days of intense talks in London to resolve conflicts that had emerged since the two sides agreed a truce in May. This after a rapid escalation of tariffs had nearly paralyzed trade between the world's two largest economies.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Jamaica's fiscal reform is a path to sustainable growth for the wider Caribbean region.
That's the word from Deputy Head of the IMF, former Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark.
Jamaica was only able to achieve the previously unimaginable when stability was restored and became entrenched.
Dr. Nigel Clark, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Police are the gateway to our criminal justice system. As first responders to crime and disorder, they stand on the front line of justice.
Yes.
They uphold the law, they protect lives, and safeguard rights. By investing in our law enforcement professionals, leveraging cutting-edge technology, and maintaining a balanced approach between crime control and crime prevention, we have set a strong foundation for sustained crime reduction and public safety. The tide has shifted. Our police officers, with the support of the government and the leadership of this Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, remains resolute in efforts to secure Jamaica and Jamaicans. Their presence brings order. Their actions build trust. Yes. The police are not just law enforcers who move among us. They are the fundamental pillar of the nation state.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The West Indies women beat South Africa by 4 wickets under the Duckworth-Lewis method a short while ago in Barbados to take a 1-0 lead in their 3-match one-day international series. After restricting the South Africans to 232 for 9 in their 50 overs, the Windies were asked to get a revised victory target following a rain interruption. They reached 180 for 6 in 32 overs. Kiana Joseph 60 and Captain Hayley Matthews 40 made most runs. They put on 88 for the first wicket. Stephanie Taylor was 30 not out in the end as Ayana Hlubi picked up 3 for 50. Tasmin Brits led the batting for South Africa with 57. Nadine de Klerk made 42, while Soon Lush made in 32. Karishma Rangwarak and Ali Aline bagged 2 wickets apiece. The second game is on Saturday, also in Barbados. And the coach of the West Indies team, Darren Sammy, says the blame must be put squarely at the feet of the bowlers for Tuesday's defeat to England in the third and final T20 International at the Rose Bowl in Southampton. The Windies surrendered the series 3-0 following the 37-run defeat, giving England a sweep in both one-day and T20 series.
I wouldn't blame it on the fielding, because if you look at our execution, it's been poor, to be honest. We've not been able to stick to a plan and have a field set and execute to it. Yeah, yes, the fielders must come to the party when a chance is created to take it, but I don't think we've been consistent enough as a bowling group on this trip. Especially in T20 cricket, you've got to start well with the power play. We've been going, I think, almost 12 or so, averaging 12, 14 runs in the power play against England. The rest is playing catch-up.
The West Indies team flew into Dublin today for the start of the 3-match T20 International Series. The first game is on tomorrow, and Sammy says the players need to trust their abilities if they are to turn around the series.
It's a question of skills. When being put under pressure, do we have the skill set to be disciplined for our plans? Do we back our ability long enough? Yeah, something, especially from a bowling point of view. We've been trying to search, how do we restrict teams when they put us under the pump? You know, they might have patches where the batting team gets the better of you, but the ability to pull it back. We've seen England do it when we put them under pressure, the ability to go to a plan and get results. And to me, that's the most worrying thing. And I look at my team and I say, I got the best players from the Caribbean here.
West Indies coach Darren Sammy. 14 wickets fell for 255 runs on an eventful opening day of the ICC World Test Championship final at Lords in England. Kagiso Rabada produced an inspired spell of fast bowling to rock the defending champions Australia. They crashed to 212 all out. Butte Webster 72 and Steve Smith 66 were the only 2 Aussie batters to push back against Rabada and his partner in crime Marco Jensen, who bagged 3 for 49. The Aussie quicks hit back late in the last session to have South Africa reeling at 43 for 4 in reply at close. Mitchell Starc claimed 2 for 10. He was backed up by Pat Cummings and Josh Hazelwood, who bagged 1 apiece. National women's triple jump star Shanika Ricketts will go for her 3rd straight Wonder Diamond League victory of the season on Thursday when she contests her pet event at the Oslo meeting in Norway. Ricketts has been in inspired form since the start of the season, ticking off back-to-back Diamond League wins in Doha, Qatar and in Rome. The Olympic silver medalist will be joined in the event by fellow Jamaican Akeelia Smith with the woman who beat her for gold in Paris, Thea LaFond of Dominica. Jordan Scott will be in the men's triple jump, where 3 of the finalists from Paris are also entered, including the silver medalist Pedro Pichardo of Portugal. Paris Olympic 100 meters champion of St. Lucia, Julian Juju Alfred, will be carrying the hopes of the Caribbean in that event.
When I come out here, I want to be, at my very best. And my coach always says he will never send me to the line without me being fully prepared to compete. So I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to great competitions, my first 100 of the season, actually. So it's such an honor to be opening up my 100-meter season right here in Oslo.
Former St. Catherine High School star and current Olympic 100 meters champion, and also the reigning indoor 60 meters world champion Julian Alfred. Former Manning Cup finalist Heidel has appointed Alex Thomas the new head coach of their Manning Cup football team. Thomas replaces Devon Anderson, who left last month to take up the head coaching job at many-time the Costa Cup champions Clarendon College. The appointment was made official this month. Thomas set to begin pre-season training on July 7 ahead of the new season. Thomas, a highly respected coach in local football circles, brings a wealth of experience at both the schoolboy and senior levels. He previously served on the coaching staff at Wolmer's from 2009 to 2019, leading the team to multiple titles, including the Walker and the Champions Cups. He also served as head coach for the under 14 and 16 teams, winning several championships with both. The only title that has so far eluded him, the Manning Cup. Thomas was present with the Heidel team during the latter stages of last season and is already familiar with a number of the players in the squad. In addition to his schoolboy credentials, Thomas has coached in the Jamaica Premier League with Arnett Gardens, Malines United, and Humberline. He failed to save them from relegation at the end of the last season. And finally, in sports at this time, this evening is the first leg semi-finals in the third St. Thomas Major League. In fact, one of them is already underway at York Oval on a doubleheader. White Horses currently meeting many-time champions York, and then coming up a little later on at about 7 o'clock, Bath will take on Danvers Pen in semi-final 2. That's the first leg of it. The return legs will be played at the same venue on Sunday. The winners on aggregate will contest the June 18 final. And that will do it for sports. At the minute, we're going to be back to at 6:05 with much more.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade. Bosco Bell St. Mary is your newest gateway to Miami. Daily flights are available for your convenience. The temperature brought to you by the Airport Authority of Jamaica is
30 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 28 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Tired of waiting for your ride? Want safety and peace of mind on every journey? Amber On Time is here! With verified drivers, real-time vehicle tracking, and panic button with armed security response, your safety is our priority. Reliable service, easy booking, premium experience, it's all just a tap away. Download Amber On Time today.
You're a VIP with CIBC Caribbean. Spend US $100 or local equivalent with your CIBC Visa credit card for your chance to win a crop over VIP experience in Barbados. An all-expense-paid trip for 2. Staying at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel. Cultural tours. An Aura experience with full glam makeup. Plus tickets to the hottest last lap events. Visit CIBC Caribbean /crop over 2025 for more info. Conditions apply.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
Kingston Wharves Limited urges the public to be on the lookout for unscrupulous persons using the names of company officials to defraud unsuspecting persons under the guise of selling motor vehicles and other equipment. Kingston Wharves does not sell motor vehicles, neither does the company conduct auctions. If you encounter any such persons, report the matter to the police.
Tune in to CliffViews Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, Thursday, June 12, 2025 at 149 Orange Street, downtown Kingston. When Jamaica's only national public morgue was destroyed by fire, the country operated without a purpose-built facility for medical legal postmortems. That gap has now been filled with the opening of the region's first state-of-the-art Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, a landmark facility not only for Jamaica but for the entire Caribbean. It's a critical step forward in strengthening the island's capacity for justice and public health. So tune in to CliffViews Online, Thursday, June 12. It's the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
Taboo topics, bulletins after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Boyatings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored.
Boyatings After Dark.
Say
Public Opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a JLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public Opinion, the voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Looking to rent a fully operational production studio? Then Nationwide 90 FM has got you covered. We have flexible options to meet your recording needs any day of the week. Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays available upon request. Bookings must be made in advance. Call us today at 630-1210. Let us help you reach your production desires.
Cover Story is brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
How you do?
Doing quite well.
Good. Our focus this afternoon, education. The portfolio minister, Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, she says the ministry has deployed multiple initiatives aimed at improving the literacy rate of primary and secondary students island-wide. Now, she was reacting to a report in the Gleaner that 70% of first form students at Pembroke Hall High School are either unable to read or can only do so at a third grade level. The principal, Reverend Claude Ellis, said that many of the students are struggling to recognize even letters of the alphabet.
It's always sad when you see those reports, and it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. We've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them. We're doing more interventions, and come September, for all of those schools, the children will now get breakfast.
That's Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. She's the Minister of Education and Youth. She was speaking during Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing, and she says primary schools need to cooperate with the ministry's efforts to improve the country's literacy rate. Dr. Morris Dixon also says the Education Ministry is working on improving the detection and treatment of students with learning disorders. Joining us now to discuss this further is the principal of Pembroke Hall High School, Reverend Claude Ellis, and we're expected
to be joined by the Director of Region 1 in the Education Ministry, Otis Brown. Good afternoon, Reverend Ellis.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start by asking, this present cohort of grade 7 students, this problem of 70% not being able to read, is this unique to this cohort, or this is a problem the school has faced over time?
All right, so one of the first things that I want to for what it's worth, correct. I noted the article did say many of the students were unable to identify letters. What I did say was that there were some. Many would make it seem as a majority, but it is some that were unable to. We noted that particularly after the COVID pandemic, the students that we were getting were performing lower than expected. And so, to be honest, the data that we are using is really data from last year's cohort, grade 7, and this year's cohort for grade 7.
Okay. And over that time, you said since COVID, you're recognizing a dip in terms of, their abilities. What are some of the strategies you've been able to put in place, understanding that you're now facing this challenge?
Well, when we saw that many of our students were operating at a lower level, we decided that we would limit the number of subjects that the grade 7 cohort would have. And so they started doing 6 subjects rather than the normal 15 subjects. And we focused the time that we took from the other subjects on literacy and numeracy, right? So that is something that we did. We had pullouts, we had smaller groups, and we even implemented last year a mandatory summer school for our grade 7 students who we found were not reading at the level that they would have been should be reading rather. And right throughout this time, we were doing the post-test to see what levels they were beginning to move and so on. So those are some of the strategies that we immediately implemented that would have been from the last school year running into this school year.
But if I can just follow up, someone, if they come to you reading at a third grade level, and let's say the strategies that you've implemented, for example, limiting the amount of subjects that they carry in grade 7, how far can you move them along over that single academic year before they have to be passed on to second form?
Well, the truth of the matter is, our goal, a win is a win. And if we're able to move you from grade 3 to grade 6 in one academic year, that's a win. And so our concern is not necessarily to have them move to grade 7 within that 1 year, because that would be near impossible for some of the students, dependent on the other issues, on the underlying issues that they may be having. And so our main concern is to move you. And so some students have moved 2 places, some have moved 3, some have moved 1 place, and we celebrate those wins because a win is a win. Our goal is for them ultimately to be functional, literate, and numerate. But we know that this is something that will take time. And so the program is not just something that we are looking at the grade 7 level. We recognize that we'll have to adjust our grade 8, we'll have to adjust grade 9, but that is something that we will have to do if we're going to meet the needs of these students, right? Everyone is different, and so it cannot be that we have one size hoping that it will fit everyone.
But Reverend Ellis, going forward, as you said, you rightfully will have to make adjustments up and to, I assume, their final years in high school. How do you then justify that for those who would just simply be learning at a normal rate? Is it that they will be separated from that group which have these unfortunate challenges, or is it that they have to essentially go at the same pace?
No. Those students who are operating at what you are calling a normal pace are going to be doing the subjects that they would have been normally doing. Now, what we recognize, is that while we have some students who are functioning at one level, there are some students with exceptionality. At Pembroke Hall High School, we have students who are doing CSEC and the CAPE at grade 9. These are exceptional students. And we have programs designed for those. So, as I said, it's not one size that fits all. It is designing the curriculum based on who you have and what are the needs of those students.
And do you have that flexibility in terms of resources, staff, administrative capacity to instill that flexibility?
The truth of the matter is that if I told you that I had the resources and staffing for that level of flexibility, I would be lying. But the truth of the matter is I can't sit down and say, boy, woe unto me. It is using what you have in the best way that you can. So last year when we decided to do the mandatory summer school, I know that if I ask the parents to pay for it, they would not have the money to pay for it. And some who do have will say they don't. So what did I do? We, as a senior management team, we met with our teachers and we explained to them what are the goals. And we said, okay, we can't pay you, but we're asking you for some time. And some teachers say, okay, I'll give you 3 weeks. Some say, I'll give you 2 weeks. Some say, I'll give you 1 week. And so while I was not able to pay the teachers, they were there and we were able to impact the students. So you use what you have to do what it is you are trying to get done. But yes, there is a need for more resources, human and capital resource. But we can't just sit and say, I'll wait until this happens. We have to use what it is we already have.
We're up on the break, Rev. Hold it there for us. When you come back, I want to drill down into the day-to-day school operation, because I think Siobhan is onto something there about how you manage that, just as a practical matter, after the break.
Clear your barrels and personal shipments with ease and convenience. Request a customs contactless clearance today through CCP at jca.gov.jm. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
It's 5:44.
Burn Shack fried chicken always ready. Burn Shack original crispy. Burn Shack Cajun spicy. Burn Shack a barbecue. Burn Shack we are going Burn Shack.
The temperature brought to you by Bird Shack Fried Chicken in Kingston, Montego Bay, and Ochivios is...
It's 30 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and it's 28 out west in Montego Bay.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor's the name you know. Sagicor.
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
Building trust for generations.
Plug into the sun with Peak Energy Solutions. We are your affordable provider for everything solar. Grid tie or off-grid solar P systems, solar air conditioners, panels, lithium batteries, solar supplies, and installation. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hills, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Get on the rum with Appleton Estate this month. Dive into the history, craftsmanship, and experience a taste of Jamaican excellence. Indulge in your favorite Appleton Estate cocktails and food pairings available at participating restaurants. Or receive a complimentary Appleton 8-year-old Reserve 200 ml when you purchase a bottle of Appleton Estate's Signature Blend 750 ml while stocks last at participating outlets. Appleton Estate. Land on the extraordinary. Follow us at Appleton Estate JA to get on the rum. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. It's the cover story, and we are discussing the situation at Pembroke Hall High School. According to a recent report, 70% of first form students, that's about 220 of the grade 7 cohort, they're not able to read at the required level. We have with us the principal of the school, Reverend Claude Ellis, taking us through how he has been trying, along with his senior management team, to rectify that situation as best they can. As I saw one of the YouTubers in the chat saying, the principal is turning him hand and make fashion. Reverend Ellis, Siobhan asked you about just the practical application of what you're called on to do. And I wondered, in terms of specialist teachers, because I imagine you need quite a bit of specialist teachers if you have 220 students reading so far below the required level. What's your deployment like in that area?
Okay, so just to correct something, right? We do have about 220 in the cohort, right? However, not all 220 are reading below their level, because we do have some students that are reading at grade 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? So we do have 220 in the cohort currently, but not all of those are reading below the level, right? So that's something. Now,
Okay.
as it relates,
Well, all right. So that's a correction of the article in the Gleaner. Okay.
yes. Now, as it relates to specialist teachers, the Ministry of Education, they have wonderfully given us 2 what we call pathway coaches, and these persons are trained in special education, right? And so these coaches work alongside a team of teachers. Now, there are teachers at Pembroke Hall High School that are trained in literacy that were not necessarily employed to do literacy. But we looked at everyone. We last year got a profile of every teacher in terms of qualifications and so on. And where we saw where a teacher was trained in literacy, they may not love doing literacy. They love to do regular language and so on. We have said to them, okay, we know this is what you'd like, but we are redeploying you and so on. So we do have some persons along with our pathway coaches that are working alongside. What we recognize also is that our teachers needed training because we put some of the subjects, we dropped some of the subjects like Spanish, industrial techniques, and so on. In order to use those time for literacy and numeracy, we had to have workshops where we train the teachers and into how you can do reading in your subject area and so on. So it really is not the perfect fix, but it was something that we thought we needed to do just to equip the teachers so that they were better able to manage in the classrooms. Because as you can imagine, when students are unable to read, there are a myriad of other behavioral problems.
Yes, I can imagine the frustration. Yes.
Yes.
And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because as a matter of fact, a lot of the students are where we call at the frustration level. And so they will act up simply because they're not getting it.
Yeah.
And so we had to find ways of helping our teachers to identify and understand and empathize and so on.
Do you find that there is any kind of conflict with the students? For example, Siobhan described them as being at the appropriate level and those who are facing the frustration. Do you find that there's any kind of conflict there?
Sometimes there are. And what I tell you is when we have, for instance, a headline like we had yesterday, not blaming anyone or anything, right? You find that there are some students now who are being teased. So they are grade 7 students, right? And so they are being classified because they're now put in a box. And so the other students are saying, can you read this and so on. And it can become something that causes conflict. So now we have to now manage that, right? Because something that was really to be done relating to special education and the need for us to raise the level of special education became a sensational article, and it really has not helped those students who are struggling and want to do well, right? And so conflict can occur.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought up the matter of special education, Reverend Ellis. Do you have the ability, or to what extent have you been able to disaggregate what is a genuine behavioral concern, an academic concern, versus what is a special needs concern?
The truth of the matter is, most of the time we use common sense, gut feeling, and what God has given to us, because we do not have the training to properly diagnose. And when we do ask for assessments to be done, it is prohibitive because of the cost in some instances. In other instances, the time for the government institutions is very long. And you can imagine that if every school is sending students to these government institutions, the line is going to be long. And unfortunately, there are still some parents who do not see it necessary to spend $40,000 on a student doing an assessment, right? They don't see it as necessary. And so it becomes a problem. So we have to now do the reading, and we have to use our gut feeling. We have to use the instincts that God has given to us to determine whether this is a genuine learning deficiency or it could be some other underlying issue that this child is facing.
I respect the faith, Reverend, but you do accept that that is perhaps not the best way to approach this matter.
Absolutely. I'm not saying it is. But what is the converse? What do you do then when you are not trained to properly diagnose a situation of this nature? And you say to the parents, we would love for you to do an assessment of your child so that we are better able to direct what needs to be done. Maybe this is not even the institution for this child. This child needs an institution with a smaller class setting, a smaller class size, right? And the parent says, well, sir, I'm not money, I can't do that, right? You said, okay, you can use this government facility, and they get an appointment that is a year from the date that you have said. What is the converse that you do as a principal? You have to rely on your instincts.
Yes.
You have to rely on what you already know. You have to read and to see how can you best do those things that you have read. But it's not a proper diagnosis. I will agree with that.
Yeah. You hinted at the parents and the financial constraints that some of them face. What about the larger stakeholder group around the school, whether it be church, community, businesses maybe? What kind of support are you getting from your other stakeholders?
Well, a lot of them have tried. And one of the things that I have noted since the article came out yesterday, I've received several persons coming in to say, hey, we want to see what we can do. I have, for instance, I got a call from the management at Dairy Industries today to say, let's meet and tell me what we can do, to provide the possible means and so on. So when we have those conversations now, we can say, okay, we would like to have these groups of students tested. Maybe if we do it as a group, it would be a smaller fee and so on. So those are some of the things that are coming out now, right? But before this, we would always be writing, we would always be asking, but persons would tell us our budget does not allow for this at this moment. Maybe next year we will try, and so on and so forth. But this article and all of what is happening around it now has caused persons to say, hey, maybe I need to do something that will help this school to move along, because these children are going to be our future, drivers and farmers and teachers and lawyers and doctors and so on, And so we have to take care of them at this level now.
And ultimately, you brought attention to this issue, and I can sense that you are an individual who moves and acts with a purpose when it comes to matters of education. So what do you believe is now the ultimate goal in terms of these challenges being addressed, and to what extent does it fall on the parents versus the government versus the wider society?
Now, one of the things I want us to note, because there will be the feeling that the Ministry of Education has done nothing or is not doing enough. And I can tell you, no matter what they do, it will still not be enough. But I want to put it on record that it is not that the ministry has done nothing, because at the Pembroke Hall High School, we have had several things through the ministry to help to cauterize this thing, right? This issue that we're having, we have the one-on-one platform that we use. We have the SWP base and a number of other things, right? But what I would love to see happen is our parents, first of all, recognizing that there is a problem. There are many parents that I call denial. It's almost as though they don't want to hear that their child is at this level and needs this kind of intervention. Last year, we had what we call a mentorship program, right? We had not what we call, we had a mentorship program for our grade 7 students, where we asked that the students remain behind for 1 hour after school. And we use this 1 hour to help to change behavior and to help them to instill certain characters and characteristics and so on. And it was pulling teeth to get these parents to buy into it, right? Because a lot of them believe that their children are okay. So the parents, first of all, have to come to the point where they recognize that, hey, there is a challenge, right? We have had so many meetings at Pembroke Hall with our parents. They don't come to the meetings. We say, okay, let's keep a breakfast meeting. Maybe people will come because we offer breakfast. So we cook breakfast and we have a spread and we have a nice meeting in an air-conditioned facility and 20 people come, right? So we are saying that the parents have to recognize that they are an important part of the equation. So it cannot be left to the teachers. It cannot be left to the ministry. It cannot be left to corporate Jamaica. They, the parents, have to take charge of this thing and determine that my child needs this help and I will move towards it.
Principal Claude Ellis, thank you so much for your time and for your service. I can't imagine how difficult it must be. But keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you.
The headlines are next.
Cover Story was brought to you by Hyundai. Modern, premium, affordable vehicles.
This is a special announcement from QWI Investments. It wants to tell you that Jamaica Teas and QWI Investments wish to advise that their annual general meetings scheduled for tomorrow, June 12, 2025 at the Jamaica Pegasus have been postponed and are rescheduled for July 22, 2025 at the same time. That has been a special announcement from Jamaica Teas and QWI Investments.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6 o'clock.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Motorists are being advised to expect lengthy delays while traveling on a section of the north-south leg of the highway between Ewerton and Linstead in St. Catherine. This is due to a trailer that overturned along that thoroughfare earlier today. The police are advising motorists to use alternate routes where possible. Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and former Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark has touted the successes of Jamaica's fiscal reform as a path to sustainable growth for the wider region.
As a prerequisite, countries should strive to pursue policies that restore, maintain, and entrench macroeconomic stability. Jamaica, for example, was burdened with, and I'll just choose one variable, unemployment rates that averaged in the 20% region for all the periods from the early 1970s to the end of the 1980s, and averaged 15% from the 1990s going all the way up to the mid-2000s. And Jamaica was only able to achieve the previously unimaginable result of low single-digit unemployment, and we're talking about unemployment in the region of 4% or lower. Jamaica only achieved this when stability was restored and became entrenched.
In noting the current difficulties being faced in global trade, Dr. Clark is urging the Caribbean to shore up fiscal discipline, similarly to what has been accomplished in Jamaica.
For much of Caribbean's history as independent nations, it has been bedeviled by macroeconomic challenges. The time has come to recognize that stability once attained must never be lost, but instead be used to attack and solve higher order problems. Also, the requirements of stability should act as a constraint on policy. Any proposed action, policy action, that has the prospect of jeopardizing any of the components of stability should not make it through the policy formation gauntlet. Securing economic stability, therefore, into the future requires laws, but laws are insufficient. Stability over the long term is best preserved by developing, empowering, and strengthening institutions.
Dr. Nigel Clark, Deputy Managing Director of the IMF. Several homeowners in Montego Bay are raising concerns that they're not being properly compensated for losses linked to the Long Hill Bypass project in St. James. The residents are from Montego West Village, a gated community in the second city. One resident told our news center that the construction is being done too close to her home.
Some of the houses, they will be taken, but some of the properties, they will just be taken apart of them. So, two main things are our concern. When the surveyors came and they put the mark on the property, some of the marks are very close to the houses. We are not able to no longer extend onto our properties because our entire backyard will be taken.
She says the compensation being offered for the inconvenience is not enough.
The money that they will be giving us, that money is not feasible. So we would love to be compensated fairly for the portion of the property that they are taking. Another thing, for the houses that they give values for, the values are not fair values to us. So we are not able to purchase another property in West Village for that money that is being offered.
Resident of Montego West Village. Meanwhile, Managing Director of NROC, Stephen Edwards, is dismissing claims that the company has not been fair or transparent in its handling of property acquisitions relating to the Long Hill Bypass project. He says where valuation assessments are not done to the satisfaction of the owner, they are encouraged to get it done privately.
The acquisition of lands for the construction of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project is being carried out in accordance with the provisions of the Land Acquisition Act. As part of this process, NROC engages private, independent valuation surveyors to conduct professional assessments of each property that is affected by the project. These valuations are used to guide the preparation of fair and reasonable compensation offers to the respective property owners. In cases where the property owners are not in agreement with the compensation that is offered by NROC, they're then encouraged to obtain independent valuations of their own.
Stephen Edwards, Managing Director of NROC. Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon says the ministry has deployed multiple initiatives aimed at improving the literacy rate of primary and secondary students island-wide. She was reacting to a Gleaner report that 70% of first-form students at Pembroke Hall High School in Kingston are either unable to read or can only do so at a third-grade level.
It's always sad when you see those reports, and it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. We've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them. We're doing more interventions, and come September, for all of those schools, the children will now get breakfast.
She further noted that the Education Ministry is working on improving the detection and the treatment of students with learning disorders.
We are training our teachers to be able to pick up issues. And what we say to them is that when you pick up any challenges, you need to encourage the parent to come into the ministry, to come in and get a diagnostic test. And that's why we're building a new facility, which will be open this year, in order to do more diagnostic tests. What we're doing is providing scholarships for individuals who want to train in that area. The Ministry of Education has scholarships. We've also said to UWI, you need to work with us in terms of delivering more people who can do the diagnostic tests, but also we need clinicians who can actually work with the children when it's diagnosed.
Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Minister of Education. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited are authorized distributors of international brands ABB, Omron, STC, Festo, and Thomas & Betts. They supply programmable logic controllers, photoelectric and proximity sensors, contactors and soft starters, power supplies, variable frequency drives, and much more. Visit them at 24 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston, or shop 32 Overton Plaza, 46 Union Street, Montego Bay, or visit their website cleasling.net. Cleasing Industrial Supplies for all your industrial automation and control solutions.
You've led teams, built businesses, and influenced change. Now, lead research that transforms your field. Apply now for the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean's Doctor of Business Administration or Doctor of Professional Practice. Flexible, research-based, and designed for working professionals. All UCC programs are accredited by the University Council of Jamaica. Learn more and apply online at ucc.edu.jm. UCC, fostering leadership and innovation.
This Father's Day, escape to the Pamper Temple for ultimate relaxation. Adam and Eve Day Spa. All treatments are infused to melt your tension and remove stress. Pamper Dad with a massage, facial, body treatment, and mani-pedi. Unwind at Adam and Eve and enjoy complimentary Pure Country juices and Johnny Walker. But now at www.adamandevedayspaja.com. Purchase gift certificates. Call 876-754-6017 or WhatsApp 876-567-2142 for details.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The West Indies women beat South Africa by 4 wickets under the Duckworth-Lewis method just under 2 hours ago in Barbados to take a 1-0 lead in their 3-match one-day international series. After restricting the South Africans to 232 for 9 in their 50 overs, the Windies were asked to get a revised victory target following a rain interruption. They reached 180 for 6 in 32 overs. Kiana Joseph, 60, and the captain Hayley Matthews, 40, made most runs. They put on 88 for the first wicket. Stephanie Taylor was 30 not out in the end as Ayanda Hlubi picked up 3 for 50. Tasmin Brits led the batting for South Africa with 57. Nadine de Klerk 42 and Soon Lush weighed in with 32. Karishma Ramarak and Alia Alain bagged the 2 wickets apiece. The second game is on Saturday, also in Barbados. Coach of the West Indies, Darren Sammy, says the blame must be put squarely at the feet of the bowlers for Tuesday's defeat to England in the third and final T20 International at the Rose Bowl in Southampton. The Windies surrendered the series 3-0 following the 37-run defeat, giving England a sweep in both series.
I wouldn't blame it on the fielding because if you look at our execution, it's been poor, to be honest. We've not been able to stick to a plan and have a field set and execute to it. Yes, the fielders must come to the party when a chance is created to take it, but I don't think we've been consistent enough as a bowling group on this trip. Especially in T20 cricket, you've got to start well with the power play. We've been going, I think, almost 12 or so, averaging 12, 14 runs in the power play against England. The rest is playing catch-up.
The West Indies flew into Dublin today for the start of the 3-match T20 International Series. The first game is tomorrow. Sammy says the players need to trust their abilities if they are to turn around their fortunes.
It's a question of skills. When being put under pressure, do we have the skill set to be disciplined with our plans? Do we back our ability long enough? Here's something, especially from a bowling point of view. We've been trying to search how do we restrict teams when they put us under the pump.
They might have patches where the batting team gets the better of you, but the ability to pull it back. We've seen England do it when we put them under pressure, the ability to go to a plan and get results. And to me, that's the most worrying thing. And I look at my team and I say, I got the best players from the Caribbean here.
Darren Sammy, coach of the West Indies team. 14 wickets fell for 255 runs on an eventful opening day of the ICC World Test Championship final at Lords in England. Khadija Rabada produced an inspired spell of fast bowling to rock the defending champions Australia. They crashed to 212 all out. Bew Webster 72 and Steve Smith 66 were the only two Aussie batters who pushed back against Rabada and his partner in crime, Marco Jensen, 3 for 49. The Aussies quick hit back late in the last session to have South Africa 43 for 4. In reply at close, Mitchell Starc claimed 2 for 10, and he was backed up by Pat Cummins and Josh Hazelwood, who picked up a wicket apiece. National women's triple jump star Shanika Ricketts will go for her third straight Wonder Diamond League victory of the season on Thursday when she contests her pet event at the Oslo meeting in Norway. Ricketts has been in inspired form since the start of the season, ticking off back-to-back Diamond League wins in Qatar and Rome. The Olympic silver medalist will be joined in the event by fellow Jamaican Akeelia Smith and the woman who beat her for gold in Paris last year, Thea Lafont of Dominica. Jordan Scott will be in the men's triple jump, where 3 of the finalists from Paris are also entered, including the silver medalist Pedro Peixoto of Portugal, Paris Olympics 100 meters champ. St. Lucia's Julian Alfred will be carrying the hopes of the Caribbean in that event.
When I come out here, I want to be, at my very best. And my coach always says he will never send me to the line without me being fully prepared to compete. So I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to great competitions, my first 100 of the season, actually. So it's such an honor to be opening up my 100-meter season right here in Oslo.
That's a former St. Catherine High School star, now Olympic champion Jojo Alfred. Olympic 800 meters champion Keely Hodgkinson of Great Britain has pulled out of Sunday's Stockholm Diamond League meeting in Sweden after suffering a setback in her recovery from a hamstring injury. The 23-year-old was ruled out of the Keely Classic, a new athletics event she founded in February after tearing her hamstring. She's been due to return on Sunday in Sweden for her first competitive outing of 2025. The race would have seen Hodgkinson come up against the Olympic rivals Sige Duguma of Ethiopia and Mary Moore of Kenya, who won silver and bronze in Paris. However, Hodgkinson's return has been further delayed after a setback in her recovery from the hamstring issue that ended her indoor season. Hodgkinson, who was awarded an MBE last month, won 800 meters gold in Paris last summer with a stunning time of 1:56.72. While no time frame has been put on Hodgkinson's return, she hopes to compete in September's World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan. Former Manning Cup finalist Heidel has appointed Alex Thomas the new head coach of their Manning Cup football team. Thomas replaces Devon Anderson, who left last month to take up the head coaching job at many-time the Costa Cup champions Clarendon College. The appointment was made official this month. Thomas set to begin pre-season training on July 7 ahead of the new season. Thomas is a highly respected coach in local football circles. He brings a wealth of experience at both the club and senior schoolboy level. He previously served on the coaching staff at Wolmer's from 2009 to 2019, leading the team to multiple titles, including the Walker and the Champions Cups. He also served as head coach of the under 14 and 16 teams, winning several championships in both. The only title that has so far eluded him, the Manning Cup. Thomas was present with the Heidel team during the latter stages of last season, so he's familiar with a number of the players in the squad. And in addition to his schoolboy credentials, he's also coached in the Premier League at Arnett, Malines and Humberline. Female tennis players who wish to freeze eggs or embryos so they can start a family at a later date will have their ranking protected by the WTA Tour. The offer is open to any player ranked in the world's top 750 who spends more than 10 weeks out of competition. The 2017 US Open champion, Sloane Stephens, says the rule will reduce the pressure on players to return to the court too quickly. The 32-year-old, who has won 8 WTA tournaments, says she has twice previously used the off-season to freeze her eggs. Players who undergo fertility treatment will be able to use their special ranking to enter up to 3 tournaments within 10 weeks of their return. The special ranking will be an average of a player's ranking over a 12-week period before and during their leave. players will not, however, be able to use their ranking to enter one of the WTA's premier 1,000 events, as the tour wants to encourage players to undertake the procedure at a quieter time of the season. Stevens says she was a strong advocate for such a measure when a member of the WTA's Player Council and the tour's chief executive, Portia Archer, confirms the move was player-led. Finally, in sports at this time, the last 2 semi-finalists in the National Basketball League could be decided on Thursday at the National Stadium Court. Spanish Town Spartans will face Upper Room Eagles, and Raytown Raptors will battle UWI Running Rebels. The Eagles lead their quarterfinal best-of-3 series 1-1. In fact, lead it 1-0, and a win would seal their place in the final. Meanwhile, the Raptors will be seeking to level their series against the Running Rebels and force a decisive game number 3. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:18.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall. Our Total Tools. Beat back figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, or Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Sly Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Make a toast to your future. The JTA Cooperative Credit Union is by your side. All educators, the best is what you deserve.
We'll keep your dreams alive.
Competitive loans to help you grow.
We'll take you higher.
Great returns on your savings. A bright future is in the making.
Build the best you with the best credit union. We are committed to serving you.
The JTA Cooperative Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
The Faculty of Law at the UWI Mona invites you to their 11th annual symposium under the theme Law and Justice in the Caribbean, Pathways to Development. Saturday, June 28 and Sunday, June 29 at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, or attend online. CLPD credits available. Hear riveting discussions on AI, digitization and the law, gender, sexual harassment and ethics, environmental and climate justice, CARICOM law and the CCJ. Register now at www.mona.uwi.edu/law or call 876-550-2680. Kingston Wharves Limited urges the public to be on the lookout for unscrupulous persons using the names of company officials to defraud unsuspecting persons under the guise of selling motor vehicles and other equipment. Kingston Wharves does not sell motor vehicles, neither does the company conduct auctions. If you encounter any such persons, report the matter to the police.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robian Williams. A special good evening to our YouTubers. Yeah, we invite you to weigh in live in the comment section on today's Public Opinion, and I'm sure that we all have something to say for this one. Today we're asking a question that puts your Member of Parliament under the microscope. Yeah? What, if anything, has your MP improved in your constituency? Have you seen real change, better roads, new infrastructure, job opportunities, community programs, or has it been business as usual with little to show? Big or small, we want to hear from you, so we're asking, what, if anything, has your MP improved in your constituency? I'll start right away with the comments on our Facebook page, where O'Neill Dennis is saying, my MP Rhoda Moy Crawford has repaired several roads in central Manchester for commuting public and motorists. We also had a water issue. It has been resolved thanks to her. Vivetta Campbell Edwards is saying she don't know who name MP. She don't know anyone named MP. Annette Palmer says, recently because of the election, I am seeing a few road patching, but before this, nothing was done. What can go so? Shanice Comfort, Rhoda Crawford has done a lot for Central. Most importantly, that road that leads to the hospital is a one-way. The amount of people died in traffic on that road before its transformation. However, Andrew Holness for jobs and everything, he's getting my vote. All right. Winston says, absolutely nothing. I'm not surprised though, because it's a handout party. MP. JJ Max says, road, water, jobs, and lots more. Natasha Lewis says, PNP MP in Manchester, not a thing. Prince Wellington, their bank accounts. To the question, what if anything has your MP improved in your constituency? Prince Wellington saying, bank accounts. Wow. Carol Carwin from Northwest St. Catherine saying nothing at all, nothing fallout with his party and disappear. Okay. ONC Randall, the government sabotaged my MP because I'm a PNP. Wow. Janoy Antonio, South Manchester, nothing. We've never seen Robert Chin. We don't know where else him go work, but he doesn't choose our area. Pauline Campbell said farm roads, main roads improved, water supply, infrastructure upgrade, and many more things done. My MP, Floyd Green. Philip Jackson said, we keep asking PM doing for us. What are we doing for ourselves? They are doing their part as much as they can, says Philip Jackson. Coming from Barry Black's Northeast St. Catherine MP, forget us. She's missing in one of those potholes. Wow. What can go so? Audley Nain, not the constituency that I happen to live in, Eastern St. James. The MP Denise Daly hasn't done nothing for the constituency. She's a deadbeat. Wow, Audley Nain. Yeah, but it goes to show that, you know, if indeed there has been any improvement or improvement any at all, your constituents, you know, this is how they should call you out. Looking on, you have 5 years, they should call you out because at the end of the day, they are the ones paying you. You're in there representing them. So if it is that they're not seeing any improvement in the constituency, then something wrong. Yeah? To the question, what if anything has your MP improved in your constituency on Instagram? Let me see what's being said over here. Fitz Jackson must go, says Child of Money. Tish Mona saying, I not even know where to start with Miss Kerencia. The condition of the road from Linstead to Redwood, Hamwalk, Pear Tree Grove, Post Road in deplorable condition. Good God, man. Seem like how the people them put Uno in, give the people them what to make them feel comfortable. Scolding Smith says, in South Trelawney, skill training, 2 centers, free of cost, refurbished health centers, police stations, scholarships, grants, fertilizer, startup grants, farm work cards. All right. Queen Minnie saying, well, Julian Robinson and Mr. Swaby, nothing at all. Tamika Davis gots to go, says Wade. Nothing. Zoe School is also saying his salary. That has what has been improved. Key to the city, of course. Assume many people know who is their MP. Of course, the question is assuming that many people know their MP. Well, if you don't know your MP, that is sad. Increase the spending power of all civil servants, says Sean King. Mr. Keem says, the only thing I see improved in St. Catherine North Central was GC Foster College. For the MP was the sports minister at the time, and it's a part of her constituency, and it would have looked bad if she did nothing about it. She hasn't done any other significant thing for nearly 20 years, and it's time for her to pack her bags and go. Hashtag her time come. Zavism say, a watch from South Trelawney to see what others say. Okay. Nothing from Robert Pickersgill to Hugh Graham. Still no road, water or anything since I was 8 years old. Mr. Pickersgill building football field for the community. I'm now 36-year-old. And the lands still haven't been touched, not to mention the roads are riverbeds. St. Catherine Eastern, Denise Daly, not a thing. Yeah? Enlighten One says improve the pumping station for water supply, new health facilities, new fire station, upgrading police station and hospital, upgrading and refurbish community center in the major town, major work on the coastline, and lots more. Yeah. Coming to our YouTubers quickly. Let me see what's happening. I think there are comments on X. Lothan Cousins hasn't improved anything, says Shanae. Big up to Mrs. Favel Williams. She gave us water and light, says Javon Ramden. Don O'Mealy says, let me see. I'll get back to you on that one. Williams says Samuda has done nothing good to Ocho Rios. Let's see. What, if anything, has your MP improved in your constituency? Going once, going twice. It's that time, election year. And we need to call it out for what it is. Is either good or is either bad. Is either nothing or is either something. Let's see. Northwest St. Catherine doesn't have a MP, says Kirk Buchanan. Aishan Khan is saying, if your MPs haven't done anything, spin him around to PM, a whirl of goods. CJ Martinez says, roads them bad. Place bush up. No improvement from Tova Hamilton. Let me see if I can get in some more. Content in the hills of Bog Walk. No water from I know there. 50 years. Nita Garvey, come down. Sibley's, no sir. The road from Johns Hall to Franklin in Clarendon, not so bad. Anna Vera is saying, nothing doing in Warminster in St. Elizabeth. Frank Witter MP doing nothing for this area. Maybug, born and grow in town, and I can write a book from Leakey to Russell to Atkinson to Dr. Harris, Tova, leading miles in Trelawney North. Oh, you're saying born and grow in Trelawney North? Phoenix Sims is saying, I wonder if the sympathizers of that side have any issue with Mark Golding's. Okay, wow. Yeah, highest paid political representative of the country. Okay. North Trelawney, nothing, says CJ Martinez. Grace Price, Hilton constituency, no work. Western St. Andrew. Papa is saying, I just vote for government. MP, them a check themselves. Yeah. Let's see. Marcia Dixon is saying, I think the people them telling lies. The MP them work. CPNP them say that Central Manchester MP work. Bunting did nothing. Petrona Smith says, my MP George Wright have done a lot of improvement. Water, road, jobs. He is the best Westmoreland ever had. A very hard-working MP. Central Westmoreland to be exact. I mean, call them out for what it is. It's either you're doing a good job or you're doing a not so good job, or you're doing, you're doing a bad job. You're not doing anything, or you're doing something. Andrew Lass says, nothing from Maurice Guy. Rail change, efforts made to improve the basic infrastructures, water, road, light, and the overall aesthetics of West Rural St. Andrew. Remember now, work is going, always in progress, says Phoenix Sims. Miss Ati say, we have good road, but some zinc fence need to move. Them need to come down now. Learn to Learn says, we need a deliverance from the PNP in Northwest St. Catherine. Miss Wholeness is working, says David Wright. Big up Carl Samuda, Andrew Shady says. Rhoda Crawford, the hardest working MP in Jamaica. That's coming from Pro Gamer Dude. Becca Grant, Southwest St. Catherine, Everall Warmington, the best MP in Parliament. Cindy Lynch saying to us that Trenchtown she live in and scandal bags still are tilit. Wow. Cindy Lynch, wow. Okay. Simone Campbell says, one Crystal Lee working hard. Yeah. One Andrew coming from Marjorie G. Donna Llewellyn, not seeing anything except for black drums at the MP office, which I guess some people know has a bit of storage of water. I want to see something that impacts my area, South Manchester. Fitzjackson, nothing at all. KM team fed up, says Savannah. A lot of comments coming in on this one, and as they should. Let me see if I can get in a few more. God help who help themselves, says Philip Jackson. It matters not what a MP do. Someone will miss it or say otherwise. All right. Yeah. A lot of things to consider. Members of Parliament, if you're in the hearing of my voice and you're hearing your constituents, the complaints that they have, I think we've been at it from Monday up to this point, calling out the members of Parliament, asking you, the people, you, the constituents in the communities, what's been happening. Yeah? Listen to the voices of the people. Know what is happening on the ground. Let us see if you do deserve a second term, a third term, a fourth term, or any other term. That's all the time for Public Opinion. Thank you so much for participating. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
66633. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. The sale of JN General Insurance Company Limited, JNGI, to British Caribbean Insurance Company Limited, BCIS, and ICD Group Holdings Limited is now complete. The sale was finished on June 6, following the transfer of the JNGI shares owned by the JN Financial Group Limited to BCIC and ICD Group. It also coincided with the redundancy of all JNGI employees, most of whom received offers to work in a similar capacity at BCIC. Both BCIC and JNGI will continue to operate their businesses in ordinary course, and there will be no change in policyholders' experience with either company. The only change arising from the completion of the sale is that JNGI is now owned by BCIC and ICD Group. Over the next few months, JNGI will change its name to BCIC Insurance Limited, which will be reflected in the branding of the company. After the name change, the approval of the Financial Services Commission is required for the business of both companies to be combined in one entity. Further afield, prices of toys, car parts, and major appliances jumped in the U.S. last month, but the overall impact of Donald Trump's new tariffs on consumers remained relatively muted. Prices were up 2.4% in May, compared with a year ago, up from a rate of 2.3% in April, the latest official inflation figures showed. Housing and grocery prices continued to rise, but those increases were offset by declines in other areas such as petrol, airfares, and clothing. The monthly report from the Labor Department is being closely watched to see how Trump's decision to raise taxes on imports plays out across the world's largest economy. And finally, in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 160 Jamaican dollars and 15 cents to buy $1 US, 216 Jamaican dollars and 45 cents to buy £1 British pound, and 118 Jamaican dollars and 1 cent to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Experience the joy of buying a brand new Hyundai without breaking the bank. Yes, buying a brand new car should never leave you broke. From stylish designs and safety features to comfortable driving and reliability, Hyundai is the choice. Hyundai vehicles come standard with 2 years free service and 5 years warranty and roadside assistance for your peace of mind. Drive 2 years without service cost and 5 years without fear of being stranded. Hyundai. Conditions apply.
Get on the rum with Appleton Estate this month. Dive into the history, craftsmanship, and experience a taste of Jamaican excellence. Indulge in your favorite Appleton Estate cocktails and food pairings available at participating restaurants. Or receive a complimentary Appleton 8-year-old Reserve 200 ml when you purchase a bottle of Appleton Estate's Signature Blend 750 ml while stocks last at participating outlets. Appleton Estate. Land on the extraordinary. Follow us at Appleton Estate JA to get on the rum. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
We can light up your world with the rays of the sun, putting pure energy in the palm of your hand.
For over 20 years, Fosrich has been putting a world of energy in your hands. Now we bring you big savings with our line of solar energy products and LED lighting. Financing now available for all your home and commercial retrofit projects. Consult with our in-house staff or certified professional engineers for all your electrical needs. Fosrich Lifestyle. It's electric. Fosrich, your energy world.
Taboo topics, bulletins after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Boyatings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss.
Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored. Boyatings After Dark.
Tune in to Cliff Views Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, Thursday, June 12, 2025 at 149 Orange Street, downtown Kingston. When Jamaica's only national public morgue was destroyed by fire, the country operated without a purpose-built facility for medical legal postmortems. That gap has now been filled with the opening of the region's first state-of-the-art Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, a landmark facility not only for Jamaica but for the entire Caribbean. It's a critical step forward in strengthening the island's capacity for justice and public health. So tune in to Cliff Views Online, Thursday, June 12. It's the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
Labour rights? The Jamaica Labour Party active and strong machine moves into East Central St. Andrew for their constituency conference. Hosted by constituency chairman Davion Vassar this Sunday, June 15, Tarrant High School, 5 p.m. Come here, Deputy Leader Desmond McKenzie, constituency chairman Davion Vassar, guest speakers Delroy Chuck, Robert Morgan, Floyd Green, Rhoda Crawford, Senator Apka Fitz-Henley, Councillor Beverly Prince, share messages of action, hope, and prosperity. Labour rights were ready. No hassle with Vassal. East Central St. Andrew. We are going to take over the place. We choose Jamaica. Labour Party marching. Labour Party marching. Marching on to victory.
Good evening. It is 6:41, times for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell. I'll be joined shortly by Mr. Brooks, but until then we press on. The Caribbean HIV service organizations are experiencing severe service disruptions and financial instability that threatens to reverse decades of progress in the HIV response due to the funding pause issued by the U.S. government in January. That's according to a recent survey conducted by the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, UNAIDS, and and the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAP. On his first day in office in January, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a pause on foreign aid for an initial 90 days. This, he said, was part of a review into government spending. The majority of programs under the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, have since been terminated. The UNAIDS and PANCAP survey revealed that there's been widespread disruptions to essential HIV services, with capacity building for organizations was the most severely impacted, with 80% of them reporting suspensions or significant reductions in services. Social protection services have seen a 75% disruption, while human rights programming, a cornerstone of the Caribbean HIV response, has been affected in 67% of cases. The survey also found that only 25% of organizations can sustain services for 2 to 6 months without alternative funding, while 64% are uncertain about their ability to continue operations. Already, organizations reported increased health risks, reduced access to care, and heightened mental health challenges, including depression and isolation among some of the region's most vulnerable citizens. Well, joining us to discuss further is the Director of UNAIDS Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, Dr. Richard Amenya. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. It's indeed a great pleasure to be on your show.
Good evening, Dr. Amenya. It's good to hear from you, especially considering the report here that I'm seeing. This is very much unfortunate. How has things been? What is the overall assessment of the impact so far of this suspension in the Caribbean?
Well, it's been significant, as you have indicated, especially when it comes to services that are offered by civil society organizations and community-based organizations. Interestingly, even though the Caribbean region has not been significantly impacted compared to the sub-Saharan African region, when it comes to issues around prevention services, HIV testing services at the community level, and then obviously issues around human rights services and capacity building for community-based service providers, and issues around addressing gender-based violence and all that. Those services have been impacted because they are usually delivered by community-based organizations, and that is where our concern is. And so our motivation to review the impact of the funding cut is to be able to document the level of disruptions that we are seeing, in as much as for the public sector there hasn't been that level of disruption. It has impacted the services delivered by civil society organizations, and that is why we are ringing the bell at this point that we need to find alternative ways of financing the HIV response so that comprehensively we will be able to end this epidemic as a public health threat in the Caribbean region.
Yes, and as I said, we understand the importance, especially considering the stigma that has been attached to HIV/AIDS, and how we have done our best in the Caribbean and the wider world to address that stigma in terms of providing services and responding to the problem. So how is that search going in terms of alternate funding? And have you reached out further to Washington, D.C., the United States, to see if there is going to be a return to normalcy in terms of any funding being provided for the HIV response, the HIV/AIDS response?
Yes, we are actually in abnormal times, as you know, as far as the ecosystem of HIV funding is concerned, and obviously at the political level there is still conversations between UNAIDS and also the key actors within the U.S. administration, and we have good dialogue in terms of trying to document and presenting the impact of the funding cuts at this point in time, and so we are hoping that at least there will be a level of reconsideration. And as you know, the State Department issued a waiver. Immediately we saw that the impact was severe on some countries. And so that waiver is still in place. And we are looking at how we could look for other opportunities for funding, because the cut is actually impacting services that are delivered through civil society organizations, especially for LGBTQ entities. And it is important that we look also not just at life-saving services that mostly governments deliver, but then we look at other wraparound services, the enablers, that allow people to have confidence to access the services. So as you rightly said, stigma is a big issue for us, and the services are delivered mostly by civil society organizations. They document rights violations and look at means of seeking redress for people whose rights have been violated. And now we no longer have resources to be able to finance such activities. And that is why we are having this conversation, and then to ensure that we prime governments across the region that it is not just about giving antiretroviral drugs. It goes beyond that. It is about social protection. It is about ensuring that people have confidence in the services that they need. And so the essence of this survey is to put that across, that the funding cut has impacted people, causing mental health related issues, and people are worried what is going to happen. How are they going to access these services when the entities, the institutions that understand their circumstances are no longer receiving the necessary funding? And I think it is a wake-up call for all of us in the Caribbean region, and that is why our partnership with PANCAP is to bring it to the level of CARICOM, that the funding landscape for HIV has significantly shifted. The days of big HIV funds for programming are over, and it is important that we get our government to increase domestic resources to be able to shoulder the responsibility of keeping our people alive and protecting people from getting HIV. And we need to do that transition simply because currently the Caribbean, 70% of the resources are coming from international resources.
Yes.
And so we cannot make it sustainable unless we are able to get our government to be able to understand the situation and create a fiscal space to finance the HIV response comprehensively, not just within the public sector, but also making sure that civil society organizations and their role in HIV prevention is key, and also making sure that community-led responses are financed and people have confidence in the services that government is spending its resources to put in place within our health system.
And I'm glad you went there in terms of CARICOM and all the other regional bodies. Clearly, the U.S., in terms of its ability to fund these programs, is an economic juggernaut. It's not going to be easy to fill that gap, even if all the regional bodies pooled in. But what has been the response when you've entreated groups such as CARICOM to try and increase their level of investment in those programs?
Yeah, the essence of this survey, more or less, is to give us the data points and to make that strong advocacy case, for the policymakers within the heads of government, ministers of finance, ministers of health, that make the decisions in terms of allocation of the health budget. And it is important that they know exactly that these are not data points alone. They are about real people, they are about real communities, and the impact of funding cuts is real on the communities. And so our work with PANCAP is to create the necessary policy briefs and engage at the highest level within the CARICOM heads of government in terms of letting them know that we need to find ways that work for the Caribbean region. innovative financing mechanisms are important. We need to learn from other regions where they are setting up health funds, they are setting up HIV/AIDS funds, they are actually putting in certain taxes to raise additional resources domestically to be able to invest into health, which will take care of HIV, STI, TB, and all that, and also take care of non-communicable diseases. And it is important that we look at alternative ways and innovative ways of making this happen. Tourism is the biggest economy in the Caribbean. We can have a conversation and see, can we be able to put some small taxes in there for people who are coming to enjoy the serene environment of the Caribbean, also contributing to the health and well-being of the people in the Caribbean, so that we'll continue to interact with the global world in this way. And government alone cannot do it. And that is why we think that we need to sustain global solidarity and ensure that we are able to mobilize adequate resources, either from the domestic. The fact that we say it needs to be a country-led sustainable response doesn't mean that all the resources needs to come from the locals. No, we need to find innovative ways of also putting in place mechanisms that will allow philanthropists and people in the diaspora and all that to contribute to the health of our people here in the Caribbean. And so those are some of the initiatives that we are having a conversation on, and to see how we make them actualize within our region. And I want to see a situation where in the next 3 to 5 years, we have the Caribbean contributing significantly more than half of the resources that are needed for the HIV response. Then we will say we are on track in terms of making sure that we are keeping our people healthy. But for now, depending on 70% external resources, it is purely unsustainable, and it's a wake-up call for our government to start acting.
And that's an understandable request. But, I mean, in a perfect world, we could fund everything through our own resources. But under the very tenuous situation that we exist currently, what would be the most priority areas that you believe would require funding at this time? Unfortunately, that would essentially come to the sacrifice of others. What do you believe are the key areas at this time that need to be shored up?
Thank you. You know, I initially did indicate that the Caribbean was not significantly impacted like countries in sub-Saharan Africa, which means that governments in the region have been doing certain things right. So what governments have been doing right basically is, one, invest in the human resources that are needed to provide the HIV-related services and are paid for by government. So governments have taken up that cost. Number two is that governments have taken up the commodity cost, the commodity cost. And I think that is also one of the biggest parts of the HIV management cost, close to around 75% of the cost. And so it is important that we look at our government, encourage them to continue to prioritize making the HIV commodities available, the testing kits available, and now, because we cannot treat ourselves out of this epidemic, we need to look at closing the tap of new infections. And that is where investment into HIV prevention becomes critical. Investment into HIV testing for people who are substantial risk is also very important. So those soft parts of the HIV response, the enablers, social protection, and all that are the next areas that we need to invest in to make sure that the services that we are offering are comprehensive, they are of high quality, and we are keeping our people alive.
Okay. And Dr. Amenya, how long have you been at UNAIDS? Not necessarily as the director, but how long have you been there?
Yes, I have been in UNAIDS for over 10 years now, and this is one of the worst situations as far as funding is concerned for the global HIV response. And as I speak with you now, on daily basis, we have over 5,800 people now getting newly infected with HIV. It used to be 3,500 on daily basis. Now it has increased because of the The modeling that UNAIDS has done now tells us that between now and 2029, if we don't fill in the funding gap, there will be an additional 4 million deaths by 2029. And there will be more than 6 million new HIV infections in the next 4 years. And so that is where I am concerned as a public health specialist, having been with the HIV response for a very long time, over 20 years. It's important that we put our monies where our mouths are. Let us not let the funding reverse all the gains that we have made so far. The signals are not looking good. And that is why we really want our government to take on the leadership role, country ownership, and to use the available evidence and data to prioritize and ensure that we are having everybody involved in the HIV response. Civil society should not be left out. Government alone cannot do this, and that is why UNAIDS says it's a multi-sectoral response. And we need to be able to tap into all the different aspects of this response to make sure that we are reducing inequalities, we are using the right-based approach, we are ensuring that there is gender equality in this response so that our women and girls are not at risk when it comes to issues around gender-based violence and all that, which also fuels this epidemic. But truth must be told, we also have key and vulnerable populations that are there. LGBTQ community are there. They require services, and we need to create the necessary policy environment to be able to make them access the services that are available when it comes to HIV. So basically, that is what I want to say. If we want to have a generation free of HIV in the Caribbean, we need to get the Caribbean government taking full leadership and ownership of this. We need to be innovative and not rely on other governments outside to be able to help us. The Caribbean is known for resilience and innovation, and I know that it is possible. If we put our minds to something, we will get it right. And that is why I'm calling on all Caribbean governments to take on this leadership role and ensure that we create the necessary fiscal space for HIV investment to come in. In the beginning, it will be hard. It will be uncomfortable because almost every sector requires resources. But I tell you, we need a very strong human resources to power this economy in the Caribbean, in Jamaica and everywhere. And we are at the point where we need these human resources to be protected. And HIV should not be a barrier, and issues around non-communicable disease should not be a barrier. And so health should be central to the development strategies of the Caribbean countries. So this is what I would want to put on the table. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amenya. That is Richard Amenya. He is the director for UNAIDS Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, and giving us the lesson that the Caribbean should take away, that now is a time for self-reliance when it comes to the response, not only to matters such as HIV/AIDS, but an understanding of how global priorities have shifted in this day and age, and we must be the ones looking out to assist ourselves. Thank you so much, Dr. Amenya, for that.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Have a good evening. More after this, listeners.
You're a VIP with CIBC Caribbean. Spend US $100 or local equivalent with your CIBC Visa credit card for your chance to win a crop over VIP experience in Barbados. An all-expense-paid trip for two, staying at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel, cultural tours, and Aura experience with full glam makeup plus tickets to the hottest last lap events. Visit CIBC Caribbean /crop over 2025 for more info. Conditions apply.
Taste it, eat it, drink it, applaud it. The 26th staging of the Jamaica Observer Table Talk Food Awards, the Caribbean's premier culinary event powered by MasterCard, takes place Thursday, June 26th on the East Lawns of King's House. Get your tickets at Starbucks at AC Marriott, Starbucks Ligany, Starbucks Waterloo, Signature Boutique, Unit 9, Legal Business Centre, 31 Upper Waterloo Road, Uncorked 2, Constant Spring Road, Uncorked Barbican, Sovereign North, Uncorked Ochi, Draxhall, Uncorked West, Fairview Shopping Centre, Resort Way by Ereline, Shop 4 Progressive Shopping Centre, Kingston, Cafe Dolce, 114 Constant Spring Road, Kingston, Fromage Bistro, 8 Hillcrest Avenue, Kingston, and of course the offices of the Jamaica Observer in Kingston and Montego Bay. Adults 18 years and over. Drink responsibly.
Taboo topics. Voyagings after dusk.
Riveting discussions.
Celebrity news and interviews.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between.
Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Voyagings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss.
Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored. Voyagings After Dark.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a GLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Looking to rent a fully operational production studio? Then Nationwide 90 FM has got you covered. We have flexible options to meet your recording needs any day of the week. Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays available upon request. Bookings must be made in advance. Call us today at 630-1210. Let us help you reach your production desires.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Good evening to you. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
We're turning our attention to the Norman Manley Law School. That's because it will be having a new principal effective September 1. Attorney Dr. Christopher Malcolm has been appointed as the new principal. His appointment comes at a time when legal education across the Caribbean is being called to modernize, expand access, and better align with evolving demands in governance, technology, and regional development. Of course, Norman Manley Law School is one of the 3 key regional law schools under the Council of Legal Education.
Dr. Malcolm's appointment follows years of academic policy and legal leadership in Jamaica, the wider Caribbean, and internationally. He's a Jamaican legal academic, attorney at law, and dispute resolution expert with a career spanning over 25 years in legal education, public service, and institutional reform across the Caribbean. He joins us now.
Good evening, Dr. Malcolm. Dr. Malcolm? All right, waiting to make contact with him. Of course, Norman Manley Law School, most of our attorneys here in Jamaica, Siobhan, are trained at Norman Manley Law School. You have outsiders also who come to Jamaica to receive that education. And my first question obviously is going to be about what his vision is for the school, because there's been an argument that we're putting out or creating too many lawyers, and that the system can't absorb the kind of training. So I want to get his vision for where he would want to see the school go, as well as examinations. I recently saw some students complaining about some courses and what they were deeming the failure rate of those courses, having to resit the examinations and the implications there.
Well, I don't know if we are putting out too much lawyers. I mean, I believe it's one of those careers that allows for quite a bit of versatility in terms of your ability to seek further educational opportunities or employment. So I don't know if that argument holds water.
Yeah, but that's what people say, that we don't need so much. I agree that a law degree obviously can be used in many ways, but I don't know that if people are seeing it outside of the traditional view of law, which is that you go to court, you win cases, you become a high-flying, top-flight lawyer, probably in some corporate firm. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to hear how Dr. Malcolm thinks about it. Dr. Malcolm?
Good afternoon. Ricardo? Is this Ricardo?
This is Ricardo. Siobhan is with me.
Siobhan, good afternoon to both yourself
and
Siobhan.
How are you?
How are you doing? I am very well, thanks.
Good. So we were just discussing your vision for the Norman Manley Law School. With all that's happening in the Caribbean, the debates going on about the final appellate court, what's your vision for the school?
Well, my vision for the school, I've said this elsewhere and I'll repeat here, that I have a broad view of what I would like to do, subject, of course, to getting on board and finding out what exists, what the real gaps as distinct from the perceived ones are, what the capacity for change is, and what I can actually do. So while my vision is, and I understand the vision concept, which is personal to me, but I would nevertheless like to have my vision properly settled by reference to what is also achievable. I don't want for there to simply be a vision in the sky, but the short answer to your question is that I want to be part of an expanding and by way of modernization program for law and legal training across the Caribbean, recognizing as I do, that even while we operate, say, for example, in Jamaica in a domestic space, we have consistently over the last several decades been more and more involved in cross-border practice. The work that we do, let's say, for example, mediation. Mediation here is no different than if you were to do it in New York or Australia or anywhere else. What happens in many other jurisdictions, however, is that they're much better resourced and much better trained in many instances to deal with particular commercial types of mediation and so on. I'm just using that as an example. So my vision is to ensure that as we prepare persons for the domestic market, we ensure that we are also on par with the international space and also ensuring that we are creating persons or establishing training modalities for persons that will enable all of us to improve and to be better able to function in a global environment.
And as you talk about a global environment, I wondered, Dr. Malcolm, if you'd given any thought to some of the gaps, any gaps that you see in how we're training our attorneys, as it relates to where the global arena and the global space is headed. I've seen arguments, for example, and debates about the use of AI in legal drafting and quoting AI sources in legal drafts that are submitted to court. Have you thought about that? What are some of those gaps that need to be filled?
Well, the gaps, I'll tell you something, and it's important that you raise that. As we speak, certainly last week into this week, the courts of Belize were effectively shut down because hackers went into their online system, literally. So while we're talking about online and the more pervasive use of AI and so on, we also have to ensure that while we're doing it, we're putting in the proper risk management systems and ensuring that we're not exposing what is one of the most critical systems, i.e. the legal system, to get to risks that are not properly mitigated or capable of being mitigated. So that is something which I am for. But in terms of the gaps, getting more directly to your question, however, I have, fortunate for me, been involved not just in domestic, but in some level of international practice as well. And one of the things that I've recognized is that there are some ways that things are done in the international space in some areas that are not closely aligned in some of the things we do domestically. So let me use international arbitration, for example, which is an area I've done work in both as an arbitrator and as counsel. So I've done both sides of the fence. And I'll tell you, I've had matters where we have dealt with persons from particular jurisdictions who have shown themselves to be exceptional lawyers in their own domestic space, but who have struggled to deal with how things are done at international level. There's one matter that I, for example, have been involved in as an arbitrator, where I sat together with one arbitrator who is based in New York as the panel chair. It's a panel of 3, and another who is based between London and some other places. And we had some lawyers, including one from somewhere in the Caribbean, not Jamaica. Exceptional lawyer at the domestic space. And I remembered we had some agreements being done, you know, in terms of the procedural directions from the outset, as to the fact that we were using the memorial style of pleadings and just the memorial style of doing the matter. And a month before the matter, the arbitration was to start in terms of the hearing, we had a final case management conference. And in that conference, we had to literally adjourn the proceedings for a later date because it was clear that even though counsel had said, we are ready and we understand what is to be done, they were not ready by reference to the way things are done using that modality. So the idea, and what I'm saying there, is that modality I refer to is the consistent modality that is used in international arbitration. So the point is, if you're preparing persons in circumstances where there is this modality available, and the modality which is going to govern work when you're going cross-border and in this type of work, then clearly the training gap, if there's one that exists, and I think there's one that exists, quite frankly, you must now try to fill that so that persons are much better rounded and able to function not just in the domestic space, but in the international space. Moreover, as the practice is emerging, you have more and more aspects of international practice coming into the domestic spaces. So it means we are merging the way things are done. And beyond that, we operate in a common law system. However, a lot of these international practices that are being accepted are practices which are designed to sort of merge the way common lawyers function as in together with the way civilian lawyers function. So again, there are gaps there in terms of training, in terms of what we do. But again, remember, I'm speaking in abstract because I have not yet seen what
in the chair.
Yes. But how do you now go about in terms of addressing a shortcoming as you have identified in terms of the curriculum? Is it a practical concern? Is it a problem in terms of teaching methodology?
It could be a combination of both, but I'm not prepared to make a judgment call at this point. What I'm prepared to say is that curriculum in any institution is not as easily changed as changing who sits in a chair. There are processes that, and the law, the law generally speaking is quite a conservative discipline, and things tend to change in a slow way. But more importantly, one of the first things I learned when I was doing advanced legal work in the area of law reform in particular, was that law reform can be a slow and painstaking process. So at the end of the day, while you may have all the exuberance and excitement for change, you have to also recognize that there's an environment in which you're functioning. But one of the things I will say, that what I'm now doing with you is something that is critical, because very often good things are done and some things that are not so good, but we don't engage enough with the publics. And I use the S on it deliberately. We don't engage enough, we don't communicate well enough, and we don't give enough information and get enough feedback that we're able to rely upon. And I think one of the things, just observing from outside, that I may have seen over time is that there are communication gaps which may exist. And that is not at all to say, and let me pause quickly to say, I must say that the acting principal and all others before me who have served and continue to serve have done an excellent job. And I'm not here to, in any way at all, comment upon what they have done or what they have not done, including because I don't understand any constraints they may have met, right? So I want to make that clear. But I also want to say that for me, there is an excitement in saying, I'm here, I want to be able to collaborate, I want to be able to hear the voices. And for me, the critical stakeholders include the media, it includes members of the public, both locally, regionally, and beyond. It includes our students, clearly, our faculty, it includes feeder institutions, it includes a whole range of persons. And my approach is one which is intended to hear the voices, to listen to the voices, and to involve the voices in the best way possible in how we change where there's change to be done, and in also ensuring that the public and the publics, since I used that expression earlier, are much more aware of what we're doing and much more able to support us in what we need to do.
I want to take, Dr. Malcolm, to the role of the law school, because you'd know well that as a country, indeed as a region, we're having what I consider to be great legal debates about things like what should be the final appellate court for countries in this region, debates about things like whether we should continue to have savings law clauses in our constitution, about the balance that should be struck between fundamental rights and security. All of those debates are percolating, and it occupies the time of government, but also ordinary Jamaicans, ordinary Caribbean nationals. And I wondered what you thought about the role of the law school as a thought leader in helping to guide some of those debates.
Ricardo, I'm sure you can tell the public that you're aware that I have for a long time been involved in what I consider to be reasoning sessions. I've done quite a lot of them through the Faculty of Law and otherwise, dealing with some of these very issues. I was the one who had Lord Reed speaking in Jamaica. I was the one, sort of things. So these are matters.
And for our listeners, Lord Reed is the president of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council.
Indeed. So I'm saying these are things which are very near and dear to me, because I believe that the legal system needs to be much more public facing than it has been. I believe that we need to get more and more persons engaged in knowing the law. We need to do more about legal literacy that goes beyond. As I like to say, I have been running a street law initiative here and more successfully in other places across the Caribbean and so on as well. And our mantra is simply, our objective is to take law from the cathedral to the streets. And that is something I firmly believe in. And not just do I believe in it, I have been doing it for 15 or so years, or probably more. So it is something that is part of who I am. And my desire is to ensure that we do more about using our legal acumen and our legal systems, including the law school, to ensure that the public is better served and better able to understand the nature of law, so that it can help us to become better citizens, for us to be able to contribute better to governance, for us to be able to contribute better to resolving conflicts without having to chop each other up and so on. So the role of the law school is more than simply training, in my view, is more than simply training persons to become lawyers. It is to be part of a critical ecosystem that is geared to supporting national and regional development in the best way possible.
And does that role involve advocacy beyond just simply public education? As Ricardo pointed out to some very key issues, such as that matter of the CCJ versus the Privy Council, matters of security versus human rights. Do you believe it is part of the Norman Manley Law School's position as the legal luminary of the Caribbean, so to speak, to put a voice to much of this debate?
As to how it is done is, as I said, something that I will find out better when I get in what I can do or do more of, right? But I do believe certainly that the role of the law school is to get involved. I believe, for example, that there are critical matters affecting public life, legislation going through Parliament and so on, that we can have a greater voice in. We can have more positions that are advanced. How we do that, how it is coordinated with civil society and so on, is another matter. And the extent to which we're able to do it, of course, by reference to our rules and statutes and so on, has to be considered. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that the law school, as I said, must be part of a broader ecosystem, which is not simply about training persons to become lawyers, but being critical to what it is that the society is about. Because I'm one of those who firmly believe that there's no society in the world that has done well, which does not have an educated or fairly well-educated legal public, or public about the law, and fairly well-established and properly functioning legal systems that serve the need. So, for example, contract law, which is an area I've taught and have had quite a bit of involvement in. A contract is nothing more, nothing less real than a tool of trade, you know. It is there to organize people or to help persons to organize their business and relationships. And I've been, for example, when I was Attorney General in the British Virgin Islands, they do a lot of incorporation of business from Saudi Arabia all over the place. And I would see multi-billion-dollar companies going into insolvency very often, not because of a lack of financial resources, but very often because of a lack of good legal arrangements being put in place. So those are some of the things that we have to be concerned about in terms of how we can allow for sustainability and to build legal systems supported by the law school, supported by our lawyers, and in an environment where we all can contribute at one level or another to the building out of a sustainable environment for the law, for the practice of law, and for how we use the law to build and support our economy.
As someone who has spoken so passionately about our legal capacity here in the region, and you clearly have a strong belief in our own ability to chart a new course, develop our own jurisprudence, that kind of a thing. When you look at the state of the law across the region and you see sometimes the resistance to, for example, accepting the Caribbean Court of Justice, does it ever, what's the word I'm looking for? Does it ever demotivate you that we have sort of tethered ourselves to the view that, you know, the British way of doing it is perhaps the right and perhaps the only way to do it?
It doesn't demotivate me for the simple reason that without challenges, there's nothing to work for, right? So all it does is that it gives us something else that we need to focus our attention on or continue to focus our attention on. But I'll say this much. I am for the Caribbean Court of Justice. No two ways about it. However, having said that, and persons know my views on this, I am never one for simply jumping out of a frying pan into a fire. And I have consistently said that even as we continue to advocate for the Caribbean Court of Justice and its implementation in Jamaica, we also need to ensure that we fix our legal systems, the gaps. And perception is reality, you know. People have perceptions, and the sad reality about the Caribbean Court of Justice or any other final court that you could think of is that the experience that people have at local level, meaning in Jamaica, in St. Vincent, in St. Lucia, wherever, right?
And we're talking about things like delays. We're talking about the sense that they're not getting justice from the system.
Exactly. So when people perceive that at local level, it also translates into what they think about the Caribbean Court of Justice, however well it is performing. So while we're advocating for the Caribbean Court of Justice, I think we must also, on equal footing, be advocating for improvements in our local system that people can feel and that people can perceive. Because sometimes, as I said, it's not what you do or even how well you do it that matters. It's what people perceive about what you're doing.
Yes.
And people tend to have perceptions. Some of them are misguided, you know. And part of the misguided nature of the perception sometimes is because there's not adequate legal literacy or training about what is done and how things are done and so on. So that is why in a part of that development program also includes the need for us, the Norman Manley Law School and other institutions and others of us who have the capacity to assist the general public in becoming more aware of the system, how it works, what the limitations are, and what we, the citizens, can do to make the system better. And even talking about it the way we're doing now is part of that education and development of thought process that will help people to think better about who we are and what we can become.
Finally, Dr. Malcolm, your stakeholders, your students, your fellow lecturers, governments across the region, what can they expect from your tenure over the period that you are to hold the office?
They can expect that I will come with a listening ear. I will come being prepared to work and work hard. I will come bringing my experience and expertise that I've developed both locally and internationally. And they will understand that I come being prepared to leverage those experiences and connections that I've developed in the best interest of the institution and of our domestic society here in Jamaica and the region more broadly over the time, and that I will continually work with that, always relying on others for support.
Dr. Christopher Malcolm, the incoming principal of the Norman Manley Law School. His appointment takes effect on September 1. And listeners, if they have any more reasoning sessions and you can find your way to the faculty or the law school, you should go. I've been to about 2 of them and I found them very, 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 very effective and worthwhile. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Malcolm, and all the best in the new role.
And thank you for having taken the time to listen to me, and I trust you will have a wonderful rest of the program.
All right. That's Dr. Christopher Malcolm, the incoming principal of the Norman Manley Law School. We're going to take your calls now. Yes. Okay. We're going to have the watchman, Miss Davy says, and then we'll take your calls. But you know the numbers, I'll remind you. 630-937-124, 618-8255.
The Watchman, exploring issues shaping our society, government, and business. Provocative, unconventional, Dr. Henley Morgan is The Watchman.
Good evening. Is Jamaica still a Christian nation? So read the title to an article by Janelle McEwen, which appeared in the January 26, 2025 Sunday Gleaner. After struggling with the issue of what makes a country Christian, church membership and attendance, or the values embedded in the culture, the writer concluded as follows. I quote, "As Jamaica stands at the spiritual crossroads, one thing is clear. The island's identity, Christian or not, will continue to evolve, shaped by the dynamic interplay of faith, culture, and the indomitable spirit of the people." End quote. The population and housing census done in 2011 by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, produced the following results. Of a total population of 2,696,983 at the time, 2,050,771 persons, that's 76%, had affiliation spread over 21 religious associations. Of the total population, 572,008, that's 21%, had no religious affiliation. Anglican Lord Bishop of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, Howard Gregory, in a November 2012 Observer article, avoided taking issue with the accuracy of the statistics from the Statin survey, but drew the following conclusion. I quote him, "There is no debating the fact that traditional churches have been facing a decline in membership. What must be of concern to the traditional churches is the growing number of persons who have indicated no religious adherence." End of quote. By comparison, what are the statistics saying about church membership in America? A country which, like Jamaica, claims to be very religious. In an article titled, "America is Losing Its Religion," which appeared on Axios News website, the writer, Brian Walsh, said the following. I quote him, "New surveys show America's membership in communities of worship has declined sharply in recent years, with less than 50% of the population belonging to a church, synagogue, or mosque." End of quote. In his Axios article, Walsh gave us one reason for the decline in church membership: the growing number of young, better educated persons in the population who are much more likely than older folks to have no religious affiliation. They are among the rising phenomenon of nones, N-O-N-E-S. People who, when asked their religious preference, answer none. Based on the paucity of data on church membership in Jamaica, one is unable to say conclusively whether the number is declining to the same extent and for the same reasons as in America. But consistent with the views of Lord Bishop Howard Gregory, Clinton Chisholm, and many other mainline church leaders on the island, anecdotal evidence suggests it is. There's one thing to which we can all agree. Jamaica, despite reputed to have the most churches per square mile in the world, is in a state of moral decomposition. We see it in the murder statistics, violence against women and children, the road rage, the level of corruption, and the general antisocial behavior. Is Christianity the antidote to these social maladies? If it is, and I do believe it is, it's time for church leaders to abandon the gimmickry that passes for Christian dogma, awake from their slumber, and win the lost at any cost, or suffer the consequence of empty pews. Think on these things.
Produced by Agency for Inner City Renewal, AIR, and recorded in the Jamming Studio Trenchtown, a breath of fresh air bringing change to the inner city.
You want to win? Then just bet. Bet on the game, no stress, no sweat. And win big in the Wanna Bet Just Bet promotion. Spend $1,500 or more on one Just Bet ticket and complete the entry form at promotions.supremegames.com for your chance to win. Third place gets Beats by Dre. Second place gets an iPhone 15 and AirPods Pro. And first place gets a 65-inch TV and a soundbar. Promotion runs May 16 to July 20, 2025. Grand draw July 25, 2025. Authorized under Section 58. Of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
We can light up your world with the rays of the sun, putting pure energy in the palm of your hand.
For over 20 years, Fosrich has been putting a world of energy in your hands. Now we bring you big savings with our line of solar energy products and LED lighting. Financing now available for all your home and commercial retrofit projects. Consult with our in-house staff or certified professional engineers for all your electrical needs. Fosrich Lifestyle. It's electric. Fosrich, your energy world.
I'm Christopher Zaka, President and CEO of Sagicor Group Jamaica. Sagicor has been a solid foundation that generations of Jamaicans have trusted to help them build a better life. As we celebrate 55 years, we look forward to continuing that legacy, knowing we will always be here, providing the support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust one generation at a time.
Tune in to CliffViews Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, Thursday, June 12, 2025 at 149 Orange Street, downtown Kingston. When Jamaica's only national public morgue was destroyed by fire, the country operated without a purpose-built facility for medical legal postmortems. That gap has now been filled with the opening of the region's first state-of-the-art Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite, a landmark facility not only for Jamaica but for the entire Caribbean. It's a critical step forward in strengthening the island's capacity for justice and public health. So tune in to CliffViews Online Thursday, June 12. It's the opening of the Forensic Pathology Autopsy Suite. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
As we enter the peak of hurricane season, don't let downtime disrupt your business. Digicel Business offers secure cloud storage and Jamaica's only Tier 3 certified data center, built to withstand storms and safeguard your data. With 24/7 monitoring, local hosting, and 100% uptime, your operations stay protected no matter the weather. Prepare now, protect what matters. Call Digicel Business Solutions at 876-469-2677 or visit digicelbusiness.com. Digicel Business Solutions. Stay online, stay protected. Sir Optimist International Jamaica Kingston Club presents Classics in June. Sunday, June 15 at the Hewitt Chapel. Start time 5 p.m. Artists include Christine MacDonald Nevers, Stephen Shaw Nair, and Stephen Woodham. Tickets $3,500 at Music Mart, Health Haven, and Fontana Waterloo. Children 12 and under, $2,000 at the door. Sponsored by Kingston Freeport Terminal Limited, Nationwide News Network, Vinci Construction, Origin, The Treatment Room, Chase Fund, and NCB.
Welcome back, listeners. It's time for your calls. As we said, the numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. I understand we have Bobby on the line. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Siobhan. Good evening, Ricardo.
Good evening, Bobby.
Yes, first, before I talk about what I want to discuss, I never get the chance to commend the police on their good work, in cutting down the crime statistics in Jamaica, and I should also commend SSP Nicholson, who is in my division, and his hard-working team in getting crime down and bringing the criminals to book and so on, So I just urge the commissioner and his team continue, keep up the good work and keep Jamaica safe and so on. Siobhan.
Yes.
Yes. I want to ask you a question. Check, for example, Ricardo and I, we are going to enter into politics. Ricardo is representing one party. I am representing another one. And you hear from Ricardo his plans forward for Jamaica and what he would do immediately if he being elected. Okay. From me now, the only thing you are hearing from me is a lot of criticism and so on, and I criticize Ricardo and his administration, and try to sway the minds of the people from Ricardo and so on. Tell me who you would support.
You mean in that situation?
Uh-huh.
Well, I would imagine that if the arguments are persuasive in terms of the flaws they have found in Ricardo's style of politics and what he's actually put forward in terms of his plans, sure. But in order to do such an assessment, I would still require the person who is doing the criticisms to provide me with an alternative.
Right, and suppose the person who is providing the criticism, and you are asking him for his alternative up until now he cannot give you, what could you do?
Well, then I would question the effectiveness of that vote.
Okay, thank you. Today, you see, I was done by my office. So when I passed the handful of comrades down in Old Harbour, two of them who know me stopped my vehicle. And the two questions they asked me.
What's that?
What is the FID? One. The other question they asked me? What is the role of Dennis Strong as CTD?
And I'm sure, considering the dearth of knowledge that you have, you were properly able to inform them and give them an educated reasoning as to what the function of FID is and what the CTD does.
Do you know, Siobhan, a man of my caliber, I'm a Christian, right? I am also a justice of the peace, and so on. And I love my country. I enlighten them, you know. I tell them what FID stand for, and I tell them the role of not only Dennis Chung but any CTD in any ministry. What are their roles? When I said it to them, they shake my hand and said, "Okay then, friend. You know, they have to go out in Wallab and, and catch the campaign and so on." You know, it is so sad. It is very, very, very sad. We are coming up to an election. I hear the media house keep on calling on Mark Golding. Tell us your alternative from the Andrew Holness administration. Up until now, he cannot provide it. You remember in 2016 when the election about to call and a vibrant spokesman in the PNP, instead of he come out and tell the country the plans forward if they should form the next government, he was there campaigning and Mr. Holness' house. And right after they lost the election, I hear Cliff Hughes interview him after the election, and he pointed out to Mr. Hughes that, boy, you know, when he was there campaigning and Mr. Holness' house, the party leave him alone in the wind, right? And he think that is what cost them. That is one of the things that cost them the general election that year. But you see, I just want to point out to Mr. Golden and the people around him whom he is leading, just watch it and try and edify the people. Tell the country your plans forward, because trust me, basically what you are doing, you are just making your party look stupid in front of the eyes of the Jamaican people, right? So I just urge all the Jamaican people, look on the job that Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his cabinet is doing for education, security, and the rebuilding of the country's infrastructure. And when you go to the polls, you make your decision. Okay then, and thank you. Here.
All right, Bobby. Have a good evening. Alric, you're up.
Oh, you, Siobhan. Ricardo.
Good evening.
Siobhan, you are the financial bureau at Nationwide, is it? You go to all the financial meetings, the B-word, and track the finances, right?
I dabble in finances a little bit, yes.
All right. I have a question both for you and Ricardo, but I would want to ask you this question and then give you an assignment.
All right.
Is there any way, Siobhan, you could get the numbers and crunch them for the amount of money that has been spent at the Cornwall Regional Hospital already?
No, but that data is readily accessible through the the budget book. It's in the budget book, and Dr. Tufton is right. Only about 9 billion or so has been spent.
Right,
the estimation for spend is 24 billion over the period of the project, which is not complete yet.
Ricardo.
Yes, sir.
Ricardo.
Yes, sir.
You know why I asked the question? Because the average, just like how they had this march last week at the Euro Circle, and when the reporter from the TV station asked them what were they marching about, and everybody was saying corruption, and they don't know what it is, and they don't know what was Dennis Chung's role. No, I heard some people bantering it that boy Tufton spent nearly $25 billion already out of taxpayers' money down a Montego Bay upon the hospital. And even though he was in Parliament yesterday evening and he spelled it out that the 24 point something billion is a projection. And him do him spend $10 billion out of it. The leader of the opposition went back to Wall Harbour today and was reiterating that a $24 billion had spent on the hospital already. Now, why are they doing that?
I think I actually listened very carefully. He did say projected this time.
He said projected
yes,
today.
and I noted that. So he amended it to say projected, but I don't know that inserting the word has eased anything, because, but I noted that he inserted the word projected.
Well, Ricardo, I have to go listen to it back over.
Yeah, man, I actually took note of it today, because I listened and I took note of it.
Dr. who came out and said it was 24 point something billion spent already.
I'm not sure. I think I heard that from the representatives in St. James.
The representatives in St. James.
Yes, I think that's where I first heard it. Yes.
And so why I ask you, Siobhan, is that a lot of people listen to Nationwide and believe in what Nationwide says. And as a financial guru, I am going to ask you to validate it. And one of the evenings, then when you come, if you can break it down for people like me, simple people, to understand where the money is spent and how it's spent and all that sort of thing. Because when you spread the propaganda and that money sound like a whole heap of money to you, people are going to say them thief the money.
I think part of the problem, and I'm not going to name any media house or anything, is that I believe there was an article initially when the budget book came out suggesting that the cost of Cornwall Regional ballooned, or some phrasing like that, to $24 billion, and since then it has been a talking point. But
I heard a lot of people that. Before I go, Ricardo.
Mm-hmm.
Rick?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you.
I saw Mr. Hughes the other night when you were going to try and take on Dr. Hart when he was going down into the gutter, and I sat there and I was watching and I said, Ricardo was swelling. What a performance on Dr. Hart, man. People who should know better. Why did he have to come and behave like that on the program the other night when you guys invited him?
Your guess is as good as mine, Alric. But I don't make those things bother me.
I was a bit sorry for you guys doing it, because I really said that I couldn't work there in a record. I couldn't do you guys because I would have taken him on enough.
No need to. I think the interview said more about him than it did about us.
It didn't say anything at all about you guys. It just showed discipline you guys are and how you guys train yourself. Why, on a good when it come on to that. Enjoy the evening. That's a good program, and enjoy the evening, guys.
Appreciate the call, Alric. Thank you. 630-9371-2461-88255. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you this afternoon?
Doing all right. How are you?
We're good up here at the Blue Mountain here, Alicia. What we find going on now, the two gangs up on the street, you know.
Which gangs are those?
The PNP and GLP, man, the two gang, man.
Oh.
And they're on the street, you know, already, But when I tell them, and the whole of them are my family, PNP and GLP, so I want to run them thing peacefully and thing, I don't want to mix up and nothing, Because when you check it out, I just black people, and all black people belong to one family, so the card and divided, because they have a little saying, say, united you stand, divided you fall.
Mm-hmm.
Then divided into two, so much as them divided, they must try, don't hurt them one another in this election here, because when it comes to election time, a serious time, because me there on here a long time, me see election, I go on in the 70s there, that's how them boy have to go make the two leaders shake hand and thing, and stadium, the Bob Marley, them and Peter Touch, And the next election after that, man, a dangerous thing was 1980, Yeah. So, black people, them to know, say, them are one. Not because them divided into two and into two, this two gang here, we really set up to keep them in slavery. Because them not really free, you know. Them in slavery. And the next thing again, you know, when me a youth man and I got Florida go cut chain and thing, you know. I 80 cents per $1 US, you know. And even when the money change over to pound, from pound to dollar, it was still 80 cents per $1 US dollar, 80 cents Jamaican. And something like a pound was $2, you know, because when you change over the pound, you get $2 feet. And between the two sides, the two gangsters, you know, man, PNP and JLP, how them get moved from 80 cents. That's now you have to pay $100, $160. $3 US. You can't give us so much money for one money, man. How that coming thing?
Well, just to answer that question as broadly as possible, that is a function of how strong your economy is in terms of its ability to essentially attract investment and attract business. So if Jamaica's dollar is weak versus the US, it means the US has a greater capacity in terms of its production than Jamaica in terms of what we import from them and what they import from us. And that is the function of foreign exchange. That's just a broad, there's a lot of nuance and other things to say, but that's just the broad thing. What they take from us and what we take from them will result in how strong our dollar is versus theirs.
Well, but look here, our dollar is stronger for them dollar, you know.
Oh?
Our dollar is stronger than the US dollar, you know.
I don't know if I subscribe to that theory of economics, Michael.
Subscribe to it because it's not true.
True,
Tell the man it's not true, Sheva. What do you mean you don't subscribe to it? It's not true. It's not true, Michael.
Man. First time coming up when the money change over. Coming up to all 72 when me last me travel go from farm work. I was 80 cents via US dollar.
All right, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah, we within the both of them to try and make it work out to be $1 to $1, 80 cents back, man. You know, so they mash up the business.
All right, Michael. I hope they're listening to you. Beverly?
Oh, good night.
Hi, Beverly.
Good night, Ricardo. Good night, Chevon.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I just called to say something to you. Mr. Mark Golden. He's just the reason why I'm around there doing what he's doing, you know. Because I want to know how strong he is. And every parish that I'm gonna go, him just want to know how big the crowd is and if it will work out with him. He's just doing that because of that. It's not that him want to go and demonstrate. It's just that him trying to feel the crowd. Feel that he can do what he wanted to do. I don't know how him keep fighting for Jamaica as if, you know, he must fight for it more than he's never born and grow here. And I can't understand. Something not right. But anyway, that is what I have to say to you tonight.
All right, Beverly. Thanks for the call.
Okay,
yeah,
welcome.
man. Have a good one.
The same to you. Bye-bye.
To answer the question asked, I did pull up the Ministry of Finance's estimates of expenditure for the year because this is not any mystical science or anything, but as it said, the initial total estimated cost, and this was up to 2023 before they found out that a lot more work needed to go into the hospital. They initially costed it at $5 billion. To date as to when the budget was called, it was $8.5 billion that was spent up to March 31. I'm assuming more has been spent since, but that was how much has been spent on Cornwall Regional Hospital's rehabilitation up to March 31, $8.5 billion. And it is estimated up to 2028 2028, 2029 is when they said this project could run to. It is $21 billion is the estimated cost up to that period of time. So no, 21 billion or 24 billion or whatever number is being bandied about has not been spent on Cornwall Regional Hospital.
All right, that's all the time we have. Dana Davey, thank you so much. Andrew Glenn Anderson Boogs, the man behind the controls, our colleagues in the newsroom led by our editor Carl Powell. Thank you all so much. Our sponsors, contributors, and your valued listeners. We appreciate your company. Thank you. My name is Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
Good evening.